The bowl is empty. There is nothing more fundamental than this. Every other fear in this series has been about something external, a disease, a predator, a natural force coming to get you. Starvation is different. Starvation is not something coming at you. It is something leaving you. Every hour, every day, you are losing what you need, and the world is simply not providing replacements. You are not fighting something. You are enduring a subtraction problem that your body is losing. Hi, I'm your narrator. Today we're covering humanity's most constant, most ancient, most intimate fear, starvation. This is the one that never fully went away. Every other terror in this series has, more or less, been solved. Starvation has been significantly improved. It has not been solved. Meet Grog. He is hungry, not metaphorically hungry, physiologically, functionally, genuinely hungry. His body using stored fat reserves because yesterday's hunt failed, and the day before that was slim, and the berry bushes are bare because it's winter, and the mammoths have moved on. Grog is experiencing a version of food insecurity that was not a policy issue or a social challenge. It was just the default state of being alive in the Pleistocene. The physiology of starvation unfolds in stages. In the first 24 hours without food, your body burns its glycogen reserves, stored glucose in the liver and muscles. After about 24 hours, those reserves are gone. Your body begins breaking down fat. You feel hungry, but you function. After 3 days, your body begins catabolizing muscle tissue for amino acids. Cognitive function degrades. After 30 to 50 days without food, depending on body fat, most people die of organ failure. The progression is methodical and without mercy. Before agriculture, the feast-famine cycle was the fundamental rhythm of life. A successful mammoth hunt meant more food than a small group could eat before it spoiled. You feasted and stored fat. Then came the weeks or months before the next successful hunt, and you used that stored fat and hoped the hunt came before the fat ran out. The human body's tendency to store fat during abundance, which in modern life we treat as a metabolic inconvenience, is a direct adaptation to this cycle. Grog's body was optimized for a world where meals were unreliable. He stored every calorie he could because the famine was always coming. Every culture on Earth developed mythology around food availability because food availability was the most important question every year. The ancient Egyptians worshipped Hapi, the god of the Nile flood, the flood that deposited the fertile silt that grew the grain that fed the kingdom. If Hapi did not flood, the crops failed. If Hapi flooded too much, the crops were swept away. The entire civilization's existence balanced on the annual flooding of one river. The Greeks gave us his most elegant myth of agriculture, Demeter, goddess of the harvest, and her daughter Persephone. Persephone was abducted by Hades to the underworld. While Persephone was underground, Demeter's grief caused all crops to die and all plants to wither. Nothing grew. People began to starve. Eventually, Persephone was returned, but because she had eaten pomegranate seeds in the underworld, she had to return there for 4 months each year. And for those 4 months, Demeter grieves again, and the crops die, and the world experiences winter. This is the myth of why there are seasons, and it is a myth about how precarious agriculture is. The harvest exists only because a goddess chooses, every year, to make it exist. The invention of grain storage was one of the most important technological developments in human history. It is not glamorous, it is a grain silo. But the ability to store food against future shortage, to take the surplus of a good harvest and hold it against the deficit of a bad one, is what allowed the first permanent human settlements. You can only build a city if you can guarantee food through the winter and through drought years. The story of Joseph in the book of Genesis, 7 fat years, 7 lean years, store grain in the fat years, is the world's oldest recorded food security advice. Egypt's grain storage system, managed from the central government, allowed Egypt to survive famines that devastated neighboring regions. The Nile's reliability was legendary, but even the Nile had bad years. Egypt's grain stockpiles, carefully tracked by scribes, were one of the most sophisticated resource management systems of the ancient world. The pharaoh controlled food security. Food security was therefore a source of divine authority. Ireland's potato harvest failed in 1845. This single sentence does not convey what happened. Phytophthora infestans, potato blight, arrived in Ireland in the summer of 1845, and destroyed between one-third and one-half of the potato crop. The potato had been introduced to Ireland from the Americas in the 1600s and had become the primary caloric source for approximately one-third of the Irish population, not a part of their diet, the primary caloric source. When the blight returned in 1846 and destroyed nearly the entire crop, there was nothing to fall back on. Between 1845 and 1852, approximately 1 million people died of starvation and starvation-related disease. Approximately 1 million more emigrated, many of them dying at sea in the coffin ships. Ireland's population, approximately 8 million in 1841, was 6.5 million by 1851, and continued to decline for decades through emigration. The political dimensions of the famine are beyond this video's scope but worth mentioning. Food exports from Ireland continued during the famine, while the British government's relief response was inadequate and frequently constrained by economic ideology. The famine was as much a political catastrophe as a natural one. Monoculture was the agricultural vulnerability. Policy was the human amplification. In 1798, an English clergyman and economist named Thomas Robert Malthus published his Essay on the Principle of Population. His argument, human population grows geometrically, 1, 2, 4, 8, 16, while food production grows arithmetically, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Eventually, inevitably, population growth will outstrip food supply, and the result will be famine on a massive scale. Malthus was writing this at approximately 1 billion human population. By 2024, we are at approximately 8 billion. Malthus appears to have been wrong. He was not wrong about the equation. He was wrong about human ingenuity. Norman Borlaug was an American agronomist who in the 1950s and 1960s developed high-yield, disease-resistant, semi-dwarf wheat varieties that could be grown in challenging conditions in Mexico, India, Pakistan, and elsewhere. The semi-dwarf part is important. Traditional tall wheat, when given fertilizer, grew so tall and top-heavy that it fell over before harvest, a phenomenon called lodging. Borlaug's shorter-stalked wheat could handle fertilizer without falling over, dramatically increasing yield. Between 1960 and 1992, wheat production in developing countries tripled. Borlaug is credited with having saved approximately 1 billion lives, an estimate that is extraordinary to consider. He won the Nobel Peace Prize in 1970. He is one of the least famous people on Earth relative to his impact. And yet, as of 2024, approximately 733 million people are food insecure. We produce more food globally than the world's population requires. We waste approximately one-third of all food produced. The problem of starvation in the modern era is not a production problem. It is a distribution problem. It is a political problem. It is a poverty problem. The Malthus equation was solved by Borlaug and the Green Revolution. The food security problem remains. Grog's empty bowl is still with us. It has just moved.